Kenny. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, world. What's happening?
Hey, what's going on, y'all? Mark My Words Sports Show, August 26, 2021. And we live on Instagram. And happy birthday. Happy birthday. How old is she?
She turned 10 today.
Oh, that's a big number right there. 10 years. Happy birthday. And well, we seen this past week what's been going on with the NCAA. Now, I didn't get a chance to get into it last week, but the past few weeks, we seen the realignment of the SEC bringing in Texas and Oklahoma. That's going to come in, 2025 or whatnot. And then you see the Big 12. There was griping about what's going on because you take their big, their big cash cows away from that conference. And then it looked like, the Pac-12, the Big 10, the ACC is going to come to their defense, but they didn't. They tried to align with each other. And now the new report is, when it comes to all this realignment, that the Pac-12 is out. That they don't want to realign with the Big 10 and the ACC now. Kenny, we've been talking about this all this past week. What do you think about this new development?
It's what I was telling you all along, man, is that the Pac-12 don't follow anybody. They do what they want to do because they got a product that's good. You got USC up in it. You got UCLA, Washington, Stanford, Oregon. You got all these teams that are, good. And at any time could explode. So you don't really need the Big Ten or definitely the ACC, because we talked about that ad nauseum last night. They only got one team in the ACC that's really relevant, and that's Clemson. Or you would bring the ACC along in a deal that was proposed with the Pac-10, the Big 12, or, whoever they are now, is because the ACC is good for basketball. So that's the only reason why you would carry them in your deal anyway, because all their football teams suck.
That is right, but it seems like they left the Big 12 out in the cold, and we talked about that as well. It's kind of messed up that they did that, but then now you see the Pac-12, which I was, on my end talking about the situation was that they followed the Big 10, like puppy dogs. You see what happened last year with the COVID-19 situation and the Big 10 not going, they stopped playing for about, 6 to 8 weeks. The Pac-12 followed suit. And then with all the backlash and the politicians, going against them, even Trump going against what's going on, they reversed. And then the Pac-12 followed them as well. So it seemed like a pattern, but now I got to give Pac-12 their props. They went and did what they want to do, so they don't want any more teams, what it looks like. They want to keep it 12 teams. So it was going to be 41 teams in this alliance, now minus 12. Now, what do you see what's going to happen next? Is this just really talk? Because it was a quote-unquote handshake agreement. What do you see going forward? Do you see more of the Big Ten and ACC doing some type of realignment and actually having those teams go against each other more often?
It's rough to say because the Big Ten really doesn't need the ACC. You know what I'm saying? They've got a pretty good product going as it is. So That's hard to say. Maybe the ACC goes ahead and realigns with the Big 12. Was the 8 teams that's left in the Big 12?
What do you mean? Maybe the Pac-12 and the Big 12 realign?
Oh, the ACC. Because a lot of those teams in the ACC and the Big 12 are from the same region, so the travel really wouldn't be that bad. So I would see the ACC and the Big 12 now coming together with the Big 12 carrying football and the ACC carrying basketball.
Well, I'm not sure about that because in basketball there is that Big Ten ACC challenge they have every year. So they do have that going, as far as the Big Ten and the ACC, and then also you do have, like you said, Clemson. That's a big get, especially for football. Um, what do you think this has on the playoff scenario when they're all in agreement on going to 12 teams now, and that's going to be very soon.
Crazy part about it, nobody really knows what it's going to do to the playoff. Nobody really knows. Only thing we really know is that they want 12 teams, okay? And that's stupid to me. I mean, if you sitting here screaming you want to protect the student athlete, 12 games, that's going to be extra already on an expanded season that they're already trying to get these kids to play 13 games and then play a playoff.
Well, one thing I'm not seeing, right, and one thing I'm not seeing is presidents, is the head of the academia of these schools and these conferences going against it. Because remember, years before they was always go against what uh, not giving the players more leeway as far as schooling. They would go against that. Now talking about realignment and possibly adding more games, adding more travel, right? Adding more travel. Um, yeah. I mean that's going to be eventually. The right the NIL.
Thing because you're paying these guys, so therefore they got to get paid to do what you drafted them there to do.
Right.
So shut up. In other words, you go back and teach something.
Well, speaking of Kurt Hershfield, I seen a little interview we had with Colin Cowherd, and he said it perfectly that there's only, there's 5 commissioners, and there needs to be a head commissioner above everybody to sort all this out. And two, they need to break off into their own entity as far as NCAA football is concerned. And this is what I said a few weeks ago, and this is what we've been saying for years, is that they need to break off in their own entity. They're already quote unquote semi-pro. You got to get that student athlete word out of the mix because that has never been the case, and we know all the way back from the 80s and 70s. So right now they need to actually be honest with themselves and say, hey, this is a semi-pro league, and these are the teams that we're going to align with this league. I mean, do you think that's going to be possible?
Uh, See, an old head like me, man, remembers like the bowl and loves the bowl. That's like holidays. That's say Christmas, New Year's Day. That's say all holidays. So if you take away the bowls, what's old heads like me gonna do? You get what I'm saying?
Well,
Same time, it's about time you start paying these players because they're making you millions on top of millions.
well, the bowl games, I don't think they're going to get rid of those for the fact of money and the corporate aspect of that. You have all these no-name corporations putting their names on these bowl games, making them money. So those corporations are going to want to keep all these bowls, these .com bowls from back in the day, and all these new bowls popping out. I mean, Barstool now has a bowl in Tucson, the Barstool Arizona Bowl. So, 3, 4 years down the road, when we do see a semi-pro NCAA type of league with, all these top teams, I still think they're gonna have these bowl games and these, going against with the playoffs and all that. because there's still money to be involved. There's still money to be made, and they're gonna make it.
There's money to be made. I just don't see them being able to keep the bowl games because I see a big ugly fight coming down the line from the NCAA as far as the bowl because that's their thing. And if you break off from that, then the NCAA is going to want some kind of compensation for the bowl. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, right.
In UCLA, Oregon, and anybody else who breaks off, you're not going to see those teams in the bowls anymore. You're going to see like your Hackensack, New Jersey Devils, and stuff like that. And that's not going to sell. So you got to think the NCAA is going to come after them for naming rights if they try to keep the bowls. That's why I said the bowls are going to be a thing of the past.
Well, to push back on that, I really think what they may do is just dissolve the NCAA as a whole and separate the college football aspect, even the college basketball aspect, separate those two sports from college sports. Yeah, it depends on what teams. You know what I mean? But like the big money teams, those teams that are in that super conferences.
I don't make nowhere near as much money as college football. And when you finish doing the whole like thing of it, it's college football that's the driving force behind it. So college football is a separate entity right now as far as like trying to get into their own bowl system. You won't see basketball driving it because they've killed their product with the one and done. So they don't have a college basketball product that's any good. So they have to roll with the NCAA. You'll see the college basketball aspect of it stay with the NCAA, I think.
Well, the right. Well, the only thing that's keeping college basketball alive is the playoff, the 68 team playoffs, the March Madness. That name itself, yeah. Right. Well, obviously it's not is now, but that right. Right, but what I'm saying is that name itself, March Madness, which now is the brand of college basketball, March Madness. I think right. What I'm saying is, but
You watch these Georgetown teams that came out. You watch the North Carolina teams, these Duke teams. UNLV had a squad. You get what I'm saying? And you watch these squads grow together, learn together, and just blow people out. Cincinnati was like the last time they had a super team was Cincinnati. And for that, they just had a bunch of bums, a bunch of players that was there for 1 year and they're gone. And that killed their product. And now the NBA is starting to see that, whoa, these one and dones are starting to infiltrate our league in a mass number. And now they're killing our product because they're not developed, they're not ready. They get banged, they don't turn into nothing.
okay. Well, Kenny, let's go back to the topic at hand. Kenny, Kenny, look, let's go back to the topic at hand because every time we get into college basketball, which I wasn't trying to, you get into this whole spiel about that. I know, but all I'm saying is right. But Kenny, what I'm saying is when it comes to this realignment here with these three conferences and the SEC, because that's what it's about, really. It's about going up against the SEC and really going up against Alabama, the one team that mostly wins all the national championships. You know,
And LSU. And then after that, you got nobody. They're a bunch of average teams just like the rest of them.
well, you know what? We're definitely right.
A team that may be good this year, but they suck next year.
Right. Well, we're definitely gonna keep an eye on this developing story, and we're gonna go to break. We're gonna come right back and get into some more Mark My Word Sports Show.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute? When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can. But it's just as important to take time for yourself. AARP can help. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
We are the boy band between Major C. We are the boy painful concert number 3. We are the boy band. We're 5 and 19. We are the boy band. Always singing on key.
You love your kids enough to take them to see their favorite band. Love them enough to make sure they're buckled up in the back seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Okay, we're back. Mark My Words Sports Show. Thanks everybody for watching and listening on RadioPhoenix.org and TuneIn Radio. You can follow us on all social media platforms. I'm Dwayne, and this Kenny on the other end, and we have to get into the NFL, which is having a surge of COVID-19 cases, and it's mainly from the vaccinated group, and it is 93% of the NFL is partially vaccinated. So you have Ryan Tannehill and a lot of players in the Tennessee Titans that are in quarantine. You have some of the Bills that are quarantined right now. And it's like a 5-day quarantine because if they're in contact with someone that has COVID-19 and they're getting, the people that are getting COVID-19 are vaccinated. Let me read this quick statement. A statement to ESPN from the NFLPA. The COVID environment is consistently changing, and our success last year was built not only on foundation of cooperation, but more importantly, the listening of our experts. It is clear with what we know about the Delta variant and with what we have seen already with clubs, testing needs to be a greater focal point. Now, Kenny, we all know your stance on sports in this pandemic. We've said this every time we talk about this situation. What do you think about with the vaccinated players and staff? Because a lot of the staff members are getting players sick. What do you think about what's going on with these vaccinated players, vaccinated people getting sick?
I think they should have waited till like Dr. Fauci said and waited till about 2023 to open the country back up and let this stuff like really blow over. You have clinical trials to make people more comfortable with taking the shot. Obviously, it's showing you that just because you get vaccinated don't mean that you're immune to COVID-19.
And it looks like that being a fact. Right now, between August 1st and August 21st, the league recorded 68 positive tests among all players and staff. That's from 7,190 tests. Approximately 7 times as many unvaccinated players have been tested positive as have vaccinated players per league data. Some teams have produced multiple positive tests at approximately the same time, most notably the Tennessee Titans, who are currently without coach Mike Vrabel, quarterback Ryan Tannehill, and among others. So we're seeing this rash of COVID-19 Delta variant going around with the NFL, and they look like they're steadfast in keeping the game going. You know they're going to start September, that first week of September. You said this a few weeks ago could we see an NFL shutdown? And how serious would right? But here's my question.
Season of the NFL, but this Delta virus seems to be like it's like just as worse as the first one, and they say it's more nastier. So it mutated, and I think they opened the country once again too soon.
Well, my question is, how devastating on the society at hand would it be if the number one sporting league in the country, I would say the second league in the world, shuts down due to COVID-19? How devastating would that be?
Too. I mean, it doesn't matter about the numbers if you care about the people. It doesn't matter about the numbers and how much money you lose. What matters is that the people are safe. And you got these people who are clamoring to get into stadiums without wearing masks. You're sitting so close to the next person. That's not a cool thing, man. You're spreading the disease. So you got these people who don't care about numbers, and the only thing they care about is money, and they just go to show you that they don't care about you as a person. It's me, my team wouldn't be playing right now.
And if you look at these preseason games that are happening, the crowd is packed. It's almost at 100% packed. And I know they're going through the protocols. Fans had to be vaccinated or have a negative test and whatnot. We've seen fights going on in the stands, all kinds of stuff. So there's no social distancing at all. I haven't heard yet of a super spreader event. And there's been going on, this past summer has been big festivals. There's these NFL games. There's all kinds of stuff going on. I haven't heard of a super spreader event yet. But when it comes to the NFL, do you trust the NFL, especially how they pulled it off last season? Do you trust the NFL to do the same this season with the Delta variant?
I don't trust the NFL as far as I can spit because they're not medically cleared to do anything. So no, I don't trust the NFL at all. This Delta variant is something that's probably going to be worse than the first variant, and people need to take heed to it right now and go sit their butts down at home without them having to put a mandate on there, and also wear your mask, even if you're vaccinated, because obviously the vaccination doesn't work. So you need to put your mask on, continue to wear your mask, and continue to practice social distancing.
All right. Well, let's stay in the NFL. I just seen a couple of starters that have been, named. Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater. He's going to be the starter week 1 for the Denver Broncos. Yeah, and it's funny. I talked to a coworker of mine who's a Denver Broncos fan who's saying that Denver Broncos fans are heated that Drew Lock is not the starter. What do you think about that?
That show goes to show you how stupid they are, because Teddy Bridgewater by far is a better quarterback than Drew Lock. I knew Drew Lock wasn't going to be nothing coming out of Washington. He was just a nice name at Washington. He was a good Husky. But other than that, man, he didn't have the skills to translate. And it's not hard to translate skills to the NFL. He didn't have that. He was just a nice name coming out of a pretty good program that caught fire that year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's out there. Remember last season, he's dancing and he goes viral for his dances and whatnot. But that doesn't equate to wins. That doesn't equate to touchdowns. And on the other hand, you have Teddy Bridgewater, who really right now should be the starting quarterback at New Orleans Saints, because when Drew Brees was hurt, he went 5-0 and led that offense, I would say, just as good, if not better, than Drew Brees. Now going with New Orleans, you see Jameis Winston clearly head above shoulders against his competition, and
the world should have known that that Jameis Winston was going to win that job. Jameis Winston wasn't even worried about that because Taysom Hill is not a quarterback.
Exactly.
Vic. That's what Taysom Hill is. Michael Vick was the white version.
Yeah, yeah, and their head coach is enamored with him for some odd reason, which I don't understand. But it is what it is. I just want to see Jameis Winston actually get more mature, hold on to the ball a lot more, and the only problem is he doesn't have Michael Thomas now because Michael Thomas elected to with that surgery, so he's out indefinitely. But I think New Orleans is something to look at. I'm really going to look at James Winston, see how he does. Um, what else have you been seeing as far as in this preseason going on with these with these quarterbacks and whatnot?
I seen Bryce Perkins for the Rams, the backup quarterback for the Rams. This dude's the real deal, man. And if the Rams can't figure out a way to save him, put him on practice squad or something, the Rams are in trouble. They're gonna lose a gem because, you know what I mean, you got a quarterback coming from Detroit that's over the hill kind of, and you need to save a dude like Bryce Perkins. That dude is special. He's like probably the best quarterback I've watched in the whole preseason. And believe it or not, I've watched a lot of preseason games over at Richard's house. So I've been watching a lot of football.
Okay, all right. And I've been hearing a lot of things about Mac Jones. They said he played against right.
Mac Jones, a Bill Belichick clone. Think about it. Bill Belichick coached with Nick Saban in Cleveland the last year they were around. You get what I'm saying? So when Nick Saban coached with Belichick, he already knew who he was going to pick because Nick Saban said, hey, this is the guy, this is your next Tom Brady, right here.
Right. And with that being said, going up against his former coach, Joe Judge, in that practice, Mac Jones did his thing, and he lit up the Giants secondary. So, right, I think
Newton is actually having a pretty good preseason, and he might keep his starting job. That's why Belichick have to name the number one. But at the same breath, Belichick is the same guy who got rid of, what is my guy's name? I'm getting old, man. Dang. He replaced Tom Brady with him when he got hurt.
Oh, you talking about Drew Bledsoe?
So Drew Bledsoe was a New England love player. Robert Kraft loved Drew Bledsoe. But Belichick is the guy who replaced him. Belichick also got rid of a Bernie Kosar in Cleveland when he came. Belichick is the reason why Bernie Kosar wasn't no more of an NFL quarterback, which he probably didn't care anyway because, he was getting robbed by his dad.
Right.
Was like, thank you for the relief. But Bernie Kosar was replaced by Belichick, so he's done it before. So check his track record. So Cam, I would be, but if I was Cam right now, I would take the year off of football.